Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon. Before I just do my main question, just to head back to the questioning from Assemblymember Georgiou, if I may, Deputy Mayor, and you spoke about where your red lines were or what your priorities are and all of this, and then refused to be drawn into hypotheticals, but you must be having discussions with the Met at the moment regarding areas where spend could be reduced.
So in creating this year's budget, you'll see that it's outlined in the budget that we've taken for a kind of free area process to reaching a balanced budget, that being obviously the main funding streams, but also how we bring about savings, hopefully through the use of technology, and we set aside £30 million to do that, to be able to drive efficiencies through that funding, and that going well, recognising that those have to realise cashable savings and efficiencies, us not being able to have to take some of the difficult decisions taken in previous years, but we are conscious and contingent on those factors.
Yeah, but if that doesn't, and we all hope that it does go as you hope, if that doesn't happen, what areas are we looking at in terms of potential frontline cuts? Further reductions to arms units, for example, further reductions to the dog units, closures of some police stations, reducing the hours along the lines of what the Mayor originally wanted to do? What sorts of things are you looking at and talking about now? Not hypothetically, no.
I mean, I think we'd obviously have to revisit some of the previous options that were looked at, but also, making sure that we have gone as far as we can with the civilianisation that we talked about previously. That's why the work that we're doing around technology is important. So it would have to be kind of seen across the round, obviously continuing to work with Adrian and his team to make sure that we are really driving commercial procurements in the right way. Are we pushing those negotiations as hard as we can? We do that anyway, but just really, we all know we're really conscious of where we need to get to by the end of next year and the potential financial situation we might find ourselves in. So we're definitely alive to that, and that's why we continue to actively have conversations with government as well.
So we might, and I appreciate this hypothetical, this one, but we might be looking at things like further reductions to police front counters, in either entirely enclosing them or in their operational hours. That's not off the table.
We want to make sure that we're doing all we can to get to a situation where that is avoidable, and we're doing the work to do that.
Okay, thank you. We touched on this, exactly this question, question 4. City Hall now funds around a quarter of the Met's budget, up from a fifth in 2016-17, while the council tax policing precept has nearly doubled. How sustainable do you think that trend is?
As Amana answered to Assemblymember Hamitash, it's sustainable in terms of it's recurrent and the kind of parameters of that. It's something the Mayor obviously prioritises, is the safety of Londoners. So, but I'm very conscious that that is an active decision that he has to take every year. So with those caveats, it's reasonably sustainable.
Okay, so as we slide down the electoral razor blades towards the next elections, do you think it's possible that the Mayor will be continuing to raise the council tax precept to such an extent, or will he be taking the foot off the gas, if I can mix the metaphors? Tom Lehrer, that's sliding down the electoral razor blades is the thing, but there we go.
From razor blades to sliding. Look, I know that the Mayor has, throughout his term, taken the very difficult decision. We all know that council tax raises it's a regressive tax. It's a difficult decision. But he has to, if there's too many dependables for me to give that answer, he has to take that decision every year.
Fair enough. And just finally, on the NICC funding discussions that you mentioned earlier, how are they going?
As I do in committee, I make sure to mention them often when I'm talking to the policing minister, for example. I mean, I think we've all seen in this year how important it is that we get NIC funding, you know, whether it be public order, football matches, state visits, London and the police force hold pressures that nowhere else in the country does. So it's really important that that carries on. Obviously, the government increased the NIC by 30%, and we'll continue to talk to them about how important it is.
Okay. And given the unfortunate drubbing that the Labour Party were giving at the last council elections just a month ago, do you think that that might sharpen the minds of ministers to give a bit more money to London, or are they going to risk further electoral failure as the election cycle continues?
All I can say is that we make sure to make, like, the Mayor of London prioritises the safety of London, and his election, you know, you've said it yourself, he's served 10 years as the Mayor of London. And it's really important that those voices are listened to, and we continue to talk to government to make sure that that's heard. He's prioritised policing and safety through his budgets. So we continue to lay out to government why it's important.
Okay, hopefully they'll listen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm just looping back in this section to an exchange that Assemblymember Hall had with Amana and the Deputy Mayor. So coming back to the funding settlement from February, which was £32 million lower than MOPAC budgeted for in January, which in turn was £23 million lower in January than MOPAC forecast in November. Madam Deputy Mayor, are you and the Mayor not embarrassed that the settlement from the new government, the one that's supposed to be the good guys, gave so much less than you and he expected? The MOPAC's normally prudent assumptions were shown to be too high twice. And the reason I raise it is because Assemblymember Hall left it as sort of a departing comment with Amana before, so I just thought I'd give you a chance to address it.
That's kind of you.
I'm very kind.
I know.
Yeah.
We obviously submitted the budget before the final figures, and that's always slightly the issue with the way the budget falls, is we're trying to set a budget based on assumptions before having the funding. We have to be ambitious in that. Yes, it was £32 million less than we had assumed. What I will say is those conversations continue. We've had previously funding come in later in the year, so we'll carry on pressing on that. I think that it would be wrong of us not to try and outline a case of what would be, you know, a positive, workable budget and try and work from there. So we continue to do that. But Amana, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I might have to fact check you there, because I don't recall the 23 million short figure. So overall, our settlement for 26-27 is £32 million short of where we expect it to be.
Right.
So that I accept.
Yes.
I'm not sure I follow the 23 million.
That's fine. That was just on a
element.
previous assumption, but we'll come back to that. But my question to you, Madam Deputy Mayor, were you not disappointed on the £32 million being short than your assumptions?
I think disappointed is obviously we're disappointed. We set the budgets. We try and work actively to make sure that we're putting a proposal forward that is in line with what we believe we need to do the work that officers do really well every day. But that's also why we're not giving up on the conversation. So that's why we continue to talk to government, recognising the continual needs of London and the need for us to get there. I think given that we've had £373.9 million in total increase over the last 2 years, that's a 16% increase. There's, you know, we've proven that working with government is positive.
There are always two sides to everything. So I think the other thing I'll remind you of is that our 26-27 budget, draft budget, contained, from memory, about £100 million of assumptions. So yes, not all of it materialised, but one example of very positively received growth was the fact that the neighbourhood policing grant doubled in 26-27 compared to the previous year. The specific area in which I think our assumption didn't materialise was that we were hoping that the 30% increase to NIC received in the previous year would materialise again. And so we put in an ambitious assumption specifically around that. That was the component that didn't materialise. So it was essentially held static. Okay. But there were other areas of quite significant growth year on year.
Thank you both. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Assemblymember Hall.
Thank you. This is to the Deputy Mayor. How confident are you that the Police and Crime Plan and the new Met for London Phase 2 can be fully delivered within the current budget?
Yep, so we, as previously mentioned, I've got £63 million to deliver new Met for London and a capital budget of £94 million. Obviously, I said we regularly, that's the money we've allocated for that, and we regularly have conversations with the Met on how that progresses. I think it's last year, I believe, at the end of the year, there was a slight underspend, and we were consciously pushing on that with new Met for London 2 coming out and having the Met is working up specific KPIs for new Met for London 2. We have improved confidence in their ability to spend and drive transformation on top of the projects they have delivered within new Met for London 2 so far.
All right, thank you. Further to you not approving the MPS Unified Operational Analytics contract, the Mayor's spokesman said, and I'm quoting, "A broader question remains over whether a company's values and ethics should be considered during public procurement. The Mayor believes Londoners would want public funding to go only to companies that share the city's values." And I asked you before, and I'll ask you again, what are the London's values, and how would this contract have been in conflict with these?
So I want to be really clear, and it builds on my previous answer around the work we've done with the Metropolitan Police Service to make sure that the use of technology does bring about a more efficient and effective police service. That the reason that I did not take forward the decision on the unified operational analytics was that I was concerned that the process followed by the Met had not ensured demonstrable value for money, and I had concerns that the scheme of delegation required by the Met to attain MOPAC's approval in terms of the procurement strategy had not been done in this case. And that being said, this prevented me from taking that decision at the time, but we continue to support the Met's ambitions around using technology to improve delivery of operational functions, and we were having active conversations with them about next steps.
Well, I'm pleased about that, but can you actually answer the question, what are London's values, and how would that, or this contract, have been in conflict with these? Or are you telling me they're not in conflict?
I've outlined the reasons I took the decision. Do you want me to separately define what I believe London's values are?
I'm asking you what the mayor went when he said he only wants to do contracts with companies that actually go along with London's values. I was wondering what he meant.
I don't think that that's what he said. We're all conscious that we have to.
It is what he said. You and I went through this last time, and your answer was, I don't think that's what he said. Well, it is.
Well,
So,
I know, like,
so what did he
legally,
mean by that?
London values. You want me to give you a definition of
What did he mean by that? When you're looking at a contract, what did he specifically mean? He'll only give contracts to people that share the city's values. What did he mean by that?
He didn't say that, so I can't answer that question.
Well, he did. So did the mayor share his views on Palantir with you before you vetoed this contract?
I can reiterate that I didn't approve the contract on Unified Operation Analytics because I was concerned at the process and the demonstration of value for money.
Again, that's not the question. Did the mayor share his views on that company with you before you vetoed it?
No.
He didn't?
We didn't
discuss it? Oh, that's interesting.
Because it's slightly, as I was going to previously say, we all know under the current Procurement Act that that's not something that we'd have to take consideration of under the Procurement Act of 2023. What's really important in taking these decisions is the right processes are followed, that we can demonstrate that, especially with public money, that there's value for money and competitive processes aligned with that. We're, as I said, continuing to talk to the Met about how we can take forward a procurement process that does that.
So you didn't discuss the contract with the mayor, fine. The letter said MOPAC was not satisfied the Met had and I'm quoting, adequately ensured or demonstrated value for money. So what specific evidence or benchmarking was deemed not sufficient in the MPS submission?
I think our concern was around affordability, given the long discussions we've had today about the pressures on the Metropolitan Police's budget, but also through the process, MOPAC wasn't usually shown a procurement strategy that enables us to test whether a competitive procurement process has happened. That didn't happen in this case. So we weren't able to understand fully how this project, which is a significant amount of money, had been assessed and competitively procured to make sure that the right levels of competition that would drive value had been demonstrated.
Okay, so there was no specific benchmarking?
Well, we didn't get to that stage because, as I said, we haven't been able to have the usual process that we would usually have in order to look at a competitive process. And those are the conversations we're now taking forward in how we can take a procurement process that would enable us to look at that.
Okay. So did you receive any legal advice about whether proceeding with the procurement or not?
We regularly take legal advice on
So you
this
did
issue.
on this specific case?
Yep, as we regularly do.
Okay. So you're looking to talk to them again as to see if you can get something that will work?
Yeah.
I mean, many of us that saw what they'd achieved were absolutely stunned by how quickly they'd got information out of existing information, and were impressed by that. Were you impressed by what they delivered?
I haven't seen that. I believe
You must have done, because we all have.
You went, didn't you?
Some MOPAC board members have seen the project that you're referring to, CSIE. We've seen it in practice. I understand that the Met have extended an invitation to see it in operation to some LPB members. I wasn't aware that members of the Assembly have seen it. That's just one example, of course. So the CSIE piece of work, which is the cultural standards and performance of their own workforce, was one of the components that would be continued under Unified Operational Analytics, and we hope will continue to be pursued once the process is followed properly and a decision resubmitted.
Well, I hope so, because the Commissioner said technology is the new frontline. When we can see what a company like that can do, and there must have been savings built into the whole new Met for London, given the savings that this particular company could have brought. Were there not? Savings by using a company such as this?
I believe that part of the motivation of bringing it together was to deliver savings. Obviously, we'd want to test the deliverability of those savings through the work, but as I said, this is an ongoing process that we're working through.
Okay, well, I look forward to you at some point being able to tell me what London's values are in respect to this. Thank you, Chair.